It is with great pride and pleasure to welcome you all to our very first online broadcast of our Filipiniana event due to these trying times. The highlight will be the Fil-Am Scholarship Award ceremony that has been recorded with holding the parade of the Santa Cruz and Morenas. On behalf of the Fil-Am Organization of Livermore, we are thankful that we are able to deliver the mission of the organization and support the deserving young Filipino individuals of Livermore. I'd like to offer my personal congratulations to the student awardees for their hard work, as I am sure that you will have a great deal of success in the years to come. As president of the organization, I wish to share with you that this scholarship isn't just about us handing you a check or certificate. It is us supporting you through your journey to reach your highest potential. Scholarships, though only an extra bit of help from Fil-Am, plays a big role in helping you students accomplish your goals. And we invest in you because we believe you can do something really special. This is why we stand by you. Congratulations and thank you to the members of the scholarship committee who played a big part in this scholarship selection process, and to the Fil-Am organization officers and members. You have done an amazing job staying positive through the challenging time of COVID-19. Let's continue to stay safe and live well. Mabuhay and maraming salamat po.
Hi, my name is Peyton O'Callahan. I go to Livermore High School, and I'll be attending Cal State University Long Beach in the fall, majoring in molecular and cell biology. Here's my essay. My Filipino heritage has shaped my life in more ways than I can possibly list. My mother was born in Cagayan de Oro, Philippines, and ever since immigrating to the States in 1973, she has continued to incorporate Filipino culture into her life and the lives of her children. My sister, brother, and I were members of a Filipino dance troupe led by Nita Nowakowski of Pleasanton. During the 3 years dancing alongside other children of Filipino heritage, I learned countless traditional dances such as Binasuan, Tinikling, and Magwalatik, which we performed at countless festivals and Fil-Am events. Growing up, my siblings and I were a part of the Cursillo movement, which my grandparents were involved in, as well as attending numerous social events every year, such as Santo Niño and All Saints' Day celebrations. The greatest exposure I have received to my culture was through my visit to Mindanao when I traveled there to celebrate my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary. While there, I was surrounded by every aspect of the Filipino culture and the unconditional love of family. I am blessed to have grown up in such a close-knit community which has been kept up by the Filipino people. In the future, I hope to instill the pride I have in my heritage to my children, as my mother has with me. Embracing my Filipino heritage has allowed me to experience many unique customs, as well as to feel the dedication of the Filipino people to their family, pride in their country, and their faith in God. Lastly, I'd like to thank all the members of the Livermore Fil-Am committee for awarding me this scholarship. Thank you.
I am a senior at Livermore High School and I will be attending Las Positas College this fall. Growing up as a second-generation child to immigrant parents is an experience many Americans go through, as our parents moved to the United States in hopes to live the American dream. This idea entails the opportunity for success and prosperity for the individual and their children. The sacrifice of leaving a life of familiarity for one of uncertainty is one my parents risked in hopes of living a more prosperous life and giving the same opportunity to their children. Being a Filipino American living in a predominantly white town has exposed me to two differing cultures. At home, I devoured the many home-cooked meals of the Filipino culture while listening to the native language being spoken by my parents and grandparents. Occasionally, I would see my very extensive family that Filipinos are known to have. I valued this time I spent with my family and felt very fortunate that I had the ability to do so. Family gatherings were held every few months to celebrate significant holidays and events, and it was during this time that I felt the most involved in my culture. From the hearty meals to the songs sung on karaoke, I was exposed to it all. In an effort to show my support to my family and to the local Filipino American organization in Livermore, I would attend the various events they had, such as Barrio Fiesta, Flores de Mayo, the Black and White Gala, and the annual Fil-Am picnics at the park. Going to these events gave me the opportunity to witness what the Filipino culture is comprised of that I would not otherwise have if it had not been for Livermore's Filipino American organization. I am very grateful to be able to attend events like these, as I have only been exposed to authentic Filipino culture once in my life when I traveled to the Philippines with my family at the age of 4. Inevitably, I am not able to reminisce on the experiences I had 14 years ago, but with the existence of this organization, I am reminded of what it means to embrace one's culture. Additionally, I feel very fortunate to be in the presence of the Filipino culture, all while practicing what growing up in the United States of America means, like playing on a sports team and joining clubs to contribute to the community. I believe that my accomplishments throughout my school career, like playing on the varsity lacrosse team and volunteering through community service clubs while maintaining a high GPA, have taught me valuable lessons that I can use in the future to fulfill the dream my parents have of a successful life for their children. With the help of my family and the Filipino American organization in Livermore, I am able to honor and celebrate the roots and traditions of the Philippines. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Sober-Pena. I'm a senior at Granada High School and I am in the middle college program. And in the fall, I plan on going to Las Positas and then eventually transfer to CSU MB for environmental science. And this is my essay. Growing up, I didn't fully understand what it meant to be Filipino American until I was older. I've always been surrounded by other Filipinos, perhaps because the Filipino community is strong in Livermore. I was raised thinking that it was common for everyone to attend big parties where everyone was either your first or second cousins, or may not even be related to you. At these parties, you can expect it to start late as everyone is running on Filipino time. My Uncle Glenn is notorious for this, and every time he uses the same excuse of having to pick up the lumpia. Food is the staple at the parties since the kitchen and dining room are always piled high with rice, grandma's pancit, lumpia, and adobo. Some of my fondest memories were cooking Filipino food with my Aunt Nomer. In middle school, we were assigned a project with no guidelines, giving us the flexibility of choosing our topic. Being the foodie I am, I chose the topic of Filipino food. At the time, it was New Year's, so I was visiting my family in LA. My aunt had her Filipino side of the family staying over, so it was the perfect time to create some dishes. We were cooking chicken adobo and albondiga, also known as meatball soup. The cooking process was completely different from what I was used to. My aunt cooked from her memory and passed on the teachings from her mom to me. We were able to discuss her life as a Filipino and how that shaped her. The experience allowed her to reflect on the times associated with the food and allowed me to become more connected to the culture. As much as I identified as Filipino American, I felt disconnected. I'm half Filipino and half white, making my combination of olive skin, freckles, hazel eyes, and flat nose difficult to determine what I am. I'm often referred to as Mexican or Spanish by my peers at first glance. I find it funny, however, that Filipinos can always recognize other Filipinos despite the mixed traits. It took me a while to learn that there is no distinct look that makes you Filipino. Instead, the relationship with the culture. It's important to keep the culture alive and embrace it, rather than disregard it due to appearances. My experience of growing up as Filipino American may differ from others, but it makes me no less of a Filipino. Thank you.
Hello, Fil-Am community. My name is Rafael Alvarez, and I'm a senior at Livermore High School. I plan on going to San Jose State University to study materials engineering. Growing up, I knew I was different from other people, being both Mexican and Filipino. Within a mostly Filipino family, I had a very different way of growing up. Rather than having mac and cheese or burgers, we would eat rice, machado, or lumpia. I always had strong family ties, which meant that my family and I would often visit my cousins and relatives that lived within the area. We would set up parties for birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, graduations, first jobs, you name it. Sometimes I felt my family would make up an occasion as a way to get together so we could see our relatives. My parents always believed that religion was important. So we would always go to church on Sundays. My parents said that if you're willing to let Him, God will help you with any problem you have. Another Filipino tradition that I learned from my mother would be taking off my shoes whenever I would enter a house. My mom told me that it was a way to show respect to those people living there. Whether we would go to a Christmas party, visiting a family or a friend, or visiting my cousins to watch the New Year's countdown, I always try my best to stay respectful at the house and the people who live there. As I grew up, I wondered about what it meant to grow up being a Filipino American. At first, I thought there was nothing extraordinary about being Filipino, other than eating differently, acting differently, and having different traditions. We're just normal people. We worked, played, and acted more or less like a second or third generation American. As I grew older and moved up in school years, I grew more curious about the traditions and characteristics of my own Filipino heritage. My mother always told me that Filipinos are hardworking people that always cared about family, their belief in God, and being happy. Recently, my family and I took a trip to the Philippines. Once we arrived, I was pleasantly surprised to see the everyday lives of my extended family, seeing how they care for each other and live their lives to the fullest despite their struggles. Once I returned home, I had gained a new appreciation for my Filipino roots. Up to this point, my Filipino heritage helped me become the person I am today. I grew up learning manners, prioritizing family, and working hard to achieve my goals. I am proud to be part of a culture that is loving, determined, and strong.
I'm from Granada High School, and my future plans are to attend University of the Pacific for the advanced pharmacy program, and just graduate and hopefully help out my parents in the future. So this is my essay. As a Filipino American living in Livermore, I struggled a lot with finding my true identity. Living in a Filipino household, my first language was Tagalog, and I remember being surrounded by the noise of the newest Filipino telenovela playing in the background while I quickly drew as many Philippines flags to decorate all over the house. Life before I went to school was mainly what you expected in a typical Filipino household, watching Eat Bulaga, getting hyped for Manny Pacquiao fights, and eating skewered Manila hot dogs with marshmallows during birthday parties. Being Filipino gave me the wonderful opportunity to visit the Philippines. I recently visited in 2018, and it was such a humbling experience. Since I was born and raised in America, there were still many cultural differences between my cousins and I, and it gave me such a euphoric feeling to learn the slang in my mom's hometown and teach them American slang as well. One thing that I found that gave me such a warm feeling was when they would speak English while I was around. Despite them knowing that I could speak Tagalog, it was clear they were also curious about the American side of me. It never really occurred to me because being American was just another habit, I guess you could say, while I was in the United States. When it came to the Philippines, my cousins made me realize that being Filipino American was a special opportunity. So as I slowly grew and transitioned into high school, I was struggling with my identity a lot, especially since I was constantly being taught about Latino culture. I had no problem learning about the Latino culture. In fact, I found that there were many similarities to the Filipino culture. The only problem was, as I looked around at all of my classmates, they were able to relate to the lessons being taught by the teacher. At that point, I felt like I was alone. This feeling of being alone and excluded only got worse as I kept hanging out with my Latino friends. Every day I listened to them talk about the quinceañera they just went to, or the Mexican food that their mom made them. Every day I tried to include myself and talk about the similarities between my household and theirs, but it was never fruitful. For the first time, I felt hurt by the unintentional exclusion. It wasn't until junior year that I decided to break out of my shell and find people that I could really relate to. I found friends that weren't only Filipino American, but were also Asian American as well. At the end of junior year, that's when my friends and I realized that no one shouldn't go through the same suffering that we experienced, and thus Asian American Club was born. At that point in my life, I was truly proud of being Filipino and even more proud to be an American. I no longer had to force myself to fit in with people just so I could feel included. And that's my essay. Thank you.
Katrina Soria, and I'm from Granada High School. I plan on attending the University of San Francisco in the fall and majoring in nursing on a pre-medicine track as a member of the Honors College. I then plan on going to medical school afterwards to earn my MD and become a surgeon. And this is my essay. When I was a child, I naturally looked for similarities between me and my friends. However, growing up in a primarily white town as a Filipino American, I found very little. I'd bring lumpia and rice to school for lunch only to be met with hamburgers and chips. My friends would look at me in confusion when I took off my shoes upon entering their houses. Eventually, I began to conform to social norms. I made sure to turn off TFC when I knew my friends were coming over. I remember only speaking English to my friends and family and feeling a sense of pride when relatives commented on my American accent. When we moved to the Philippines in 2012, a new door to my culture was opened. I'd only been to the Philippines on vacations, and through those I gained glimpses into the true Filipino culture. I was excited to learn more about my identity and to gain new experiences. When we arrived to the Philippines, I went to a Catholic all-girls school. I didn't see this as a challenge, as most of my friends in America were girls. What I didn't expect was that it ran on an English teaching curriculum. My American accent that I had once been proud of became the target of my separation from those around me. I was asked to say simple words in Tagalog, which were met with snickers and imitations. I felt as if I wasn't truly Filipino, alienated in what I thought would be home. Throughout the year, I began to shape myself to mimic those around me. I practiced my conversational, slang Tagalog, and developed an accent similar to my friends. I became hyper-aware of everything I did, making sure to fit in with the social norms I was exposed to. I moved back to America to start high school, and I decided to approach my culture in a completely different way. I attended a much more diverse school and surrounded myself with great friends. I accepted my Filipino culture and discovered new aspects of it every day. I relearned the cultural norms presented in America. Slowly, I began to immerse myself into both cultures, opening my mind to the diversity that surrounded me. Throughout my childhood years, I focused all my attention on conforming, no matter the sacrifices it demanded. However, as I grew up, I learned that fitting in did not amount to individual identity. Being unique outshined changing my personality to appease others. Through the process of accepting my culture, I learned how to show my pride through immersing myself in both American and Filipino cultures. I also learned to stand up for myself. I defended my culture against those who attempted to change me in order to be more like them. I refused to conform to the toxicity of self-hatred. Because of the obstacles I overcame, I was able to find individuality and comfort in my culture. And because of this, I am proud to be a Filipino American.
Hello there, Livermore Fil-Am Association. My name is Chelsea Warner, and I received a scholarship when I graduated with the class of 2018. I am now a rising junior music education student at Westminster Choir College. I first want to start with congratulating the class of 2020. Congratulations on all of your hard work and many accomplishments. Even though there won't be a huge ceremony in the foreseeable future, these accomplishments are yours. The many hours you spent cultivating your craft, late nights spent writing papers, college acceptances, and finding yourself will not go to waste. You are receiving support from all around the world right now, from family members, strangers, and even celebrities you look up to. Despite the challenges and hardships you've faced, you've made it to the end of your high school careers and are moving forward onto bigger and better things. Now is the time to celebrate, to look back on your high school years and how you've changed. There were times when you didn't think you'd make it, but here you are. You should look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am proud of you, because you've been through more than you know. You need to celebrate your victories, even the small ones matter. As you navigate your future, remember to breathe and just put one foot in front of the other. Find your path and follow it. Now is the time to become your best friend, to understand yourself and realize your dreams. Live in the moment, focus on your goals, and practice mindfulness. What steps will you take to find success? And how do you define success? You are the future. More than that, you stand on the shoulders of the Filipinos that come before you. You represent the dream and aspirations that our ancestors so desperately strived for. Be sure to carry the pride of your Filipino heritage with you everywhere you go. Make it known. The future is yours and you choose what you get to do with it. Make memories, make mistakes. Follow your dreams and choose a career that makes you feel full. Create a life that you will be proud of. In the poem Summer Day by Mary Oliver, she states, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" Congratulations, class of 2020. You did it.